Study from lesson and tests with Rabash. We'll read from volume 1, part 4. Questions and answers, item 30. Before we get into the study, let's hear Rav about the main topic of the lesson. Rav, there's a limitation in practice, and limitation in potential, and limitation in practice. We have a limitation in the Rosh. That's where we think that the created being has to make a restriction in order to make a place for himself, establish his independence. Just as between us, we say, hold on, just a second, you are you, I am me. Let me think, meaning I don't want to be mixed up with your thoughts. I want to have my own thoughts first. First of all, define this is you and this is me. And afterwards, there's a reaction. Here is the same. What does the Rosh do? The upper light comes and says, wait. First, a restriction. We create the attitude, we check, we measure how much to adapt ourselves to the light, in what way. And this is called limitation in practice. If there's no limitation, the created being immediately disappears in the light. Then after the limitation, after the calculation, I can identify with you, and then it happens in practice from mouth and from pen below in the goof. That's where the connection is between the created being and the creator, and we speak about that in particular, although there's nothing in the goof that wasn't already decided in the Osh, but the purpose of creation was to reach adhesion with the creator, and that takes place in the toch of the Parzuf, inside, until the toch expands until the end of the Haglim. Now we'll learn from Study of 10 Sefirot, Volume 1, Part 4, the questions and answers.
So, first, we must know what internality is, what is inner light and what is surrounding light, what is an inner vessel and what is an external vessel. Then we can discuss further. So he says, inner light is what can be received in order to bestow. Surrounding light is what one can't make a screen for. He doesn't receive it and it remains outside. So now, I know what inner light is and what surrounding light is. Now, what is coarse and what is refined? As we learned, he uses terminology from the 4 phases of direct light. We need to know that the vessel is specifically phase 4 of direct light, which is called receiving in order to receive. But he uses the same names for the screens, meaning phase 4 could mean that she can work with the 4 phases of coarseness. That's called the most coarse. Why the most coarse? Being able to use the coarseness in order to bestow. What is the more refined? Being unable to work with the 4 discernments of coarseness in order to bestow only 3. What is more refined still? Where she can't work with phase 3, but only phase 2. I'm speaking only about phase 4 of direct light, called receiving in order to receive. But I'm using the names 3 and 2 and 1 to define the screens. And so when I say screen of phase 1, it is Malchut, called receiving in order to receive, nothing more. But she can work with phase 1 in order to bestow, and not more than that. Now, this begs the question, if he can receive inner light over phase 3 of coarseness, why does he say that the second discernment is called half a wall, which is more refined? If she can receive in phase 3, surely she can also receive in phase 2. That is a very difficult question. Let's see what's written in item 30. 30. What is half the thickness of a wall? See wall. There it's written. The externality and internality in the wall of the vessel are regarded as two halves in the walls of the vessel, meaning that the coarser half of the thickness of the wall is called the internality of the vessel, and it operates with the inner light. The half of the thickness of the wall that is not that coarse is called the externality of the vessel, and it operates with the surrounding light. That's what's written here. What's difficult here for me? He says that internality is her not extending, or what she didn't extend. That shines in internality. This we can still understand. Who is the one extending it? Phase 4. In phase 4, the inner light shines. Fine. In phase 3, the surrounding light shines. What does it mean, phase 3, surrounding light? If she can draw light over phase 4, why can't she receive phase 3? So he says that no, phase 3 is called externality, and over there the surrounding light shines. That's what I'm asking about. This is, as I've always explained. So the issue is, each degree receives the maximum that it can. It cannot receive any more. And so we learn that the degree of Galgalta came, and there the ta'amim, the flavors shine. Let's say the level of Keter, 4. Level 3, she can no longer receive, as she already received her maximum. And so 3 is external to her. She cannot receive coarseness from that phase. And so we find that the light that was in phase 3, she does not receive. Afterwards, we learn that the clash of inner and surrounding took place. Then phase 4 is refined, and phase 3 shines. From where is the light of phase 3 taken? From the surrounding. Phase 3 is then refined, and from where is phase 2 received? From the surrounding. And so we find that every time we speak of flavors and dots, tamim, nekudot, we can interpret that as half of what is received is called inner, and the rest is called surrounding light. When she received 3, she cannot receive 2. After 3 departs, 2 is then received. She can receive it. And this I can learn between degrees as well, Ab and Galgalta. But it's easier to learn this in 1 degree with flavors and dots. What she receives in order to bestow, he said, it's always the maximum that she can. How can she receive more then? Well, it departs. What she received before, it vanishes. Where was it before? In the surrounding light, we say. The surrounding light always remains in the external vessel, as an external vessel. One shines, and then we can interpret it in 2 ways. One is that there is an illumination in the surrounding. Don't run. Then we can interpret it as the surrounding becoming inner. The meaning of what he says here is that when the illumination is in internality, at the same time, the surrounding light illuminates as well. At the same time, the surrounding light illuminates also. That's the meaning. And how does it illuminate? As surrounding light, meaning that she does receive something. This is what I'm talking about now. It means that she has something, she has it. But he is talking about how phase 3 later becomes inner. So far it's been external. So far it's been in the aspect of surrounding light. And that's why he can't make 2 interpretations. One thing is that everything we speak of refers only to the receiver. The receiver is called Malchut, and the first 9 Sefirot are called light. This we must remember. We want to remember that those names that we call 1, 2, 3, 4, that in truth they are the first 9, unrelated to phase 4. They only facilitated the emergence of phase 4. The same names he uses also for the screens, which Malchut, called receiving in order to receive, uses. That's the reason for all these mistakes, him using the same names. 31. What is taboo? Malchut of the Guf, where the limitation and the actual rejection of the light begins, is called taboo. What is the question? And what is the answer? We learned in the head of the degree, there is Malchut, which is Malchut of Rosh, head. The potential Malchut, or Malchut of potentiality. Rather in potentiality. When we talk about things post-restriction, we need to remember that if the degree is restricted, it doesn't receive anything. So when is it considered a degree? When it has a screen. When it has a screen. It depends on the extent to which she can aim in order to bestow. To that extent, she can receive in internally. What she can't receive in order to bestow remains external to her. So she says, I don't want to receive, and it remains without. Now, what was in the Rosh, the head, then spreads to the Guf, the body. So we find that the part that the screen said it can receive, that is called down to Malchut. What does it mean, down to Malchut? Through to receiving in order to receive. Don't forget what Malchut is. From Tabor, it's called the actual Malchut, meaning receiving in order to receive. If she receives, it'll be receiving in order to receive. That's why she says, I don't want to receive. It follows that Tabor is called Malchut of Guf, of the body, where it is apparent that limitation is in effect. Down to here, down to Tabor, she says, I want to receive, because I can aim in order to bestow. As for myself, my own discernment, which is called receiving in order to receive, I do not want to receive. That is what we call from Tabor and below, the 10 Sefirot of Siyum, ending. What is the question? We need to say that we're speaking only about the vessel, not the lights. Whether the vessel does receive or whether the vessel does not receive. Who is the vessel? The yearning for a thing, the want, the will to receive. If something is appealing to it, it wants that thing. And in this, we speak of two discernments. One is the restriction, where it can't overcome any discernment and receive it in order to bestow. And then it says, I don't want to receive anything. Why? Because then Malchut rules over it. What is Malchut? Reception with the intention to receive. That is what we call phase 4 of direct light. After that, we speak of the screen. That's the second discernment. The screen is made of a screen and coarseness, so two aspects, two discernments, meaning on the one hand it works with coarseness, while on the other hand it restricts it, but only this much, and beyond that she does not work with her coarseness. Let's take phase 3, for example. Let's say she can overcome phase 3. But for phase 4 of coarseness, rather, she makes a screen. What does it mean that she can overcome phase 4? If she receives it, it will be for herself. What is herself, her own discernment? Receiving in order to receive, and that remains. Meaning, she doesn't receive a part because she wants everything. She wants everything. However, you could say that a part is clothed, the part is received, and the other part she makes a restriction, so to speak. That's called limitation in practice. If so, who needs to make that limitation? Only the receiver. So what can I speak of? Only of the will to receive. If not, the will to receive is... If not the will to receive, everything else is light. That we don't speak of. The vessel in its entirety, that is what we speak of. It's just the will to receive. But the will to receive, we can call holiness, if it has a restriction or a screen. And the will to receive that we call shell is the will to receive that cannot accept restriction. Instead, it wants to use reception with the intention to receive. That's the whole difference. So who are we talking about? Only Malchut, only phase 4 of direct light, where she received the light, and after the restriction, she no longer receives. What is the screen? Screen and coarseness, two components. The part I receive, a part of the will to receive is in use, and a part isn't. The part where it receives that we call through to Malchut. What is that, through to Malchut? Only so far as the receiver in order to receive, meaning reception in order to, the rest is reception in order to bestow. Below that, meaning what he wants to receive in order to receive and cannot overcome, that I call surrounding from tabu, that I call Malchut. What is Malchut? Receiving in order to receive. But it's holiness. We say that below the taboo there are 10 Sefirot as well. But these 10 Sefirot, she knows that if she receives them, it will be in order to receive, and so she does not want to receive them. This is called the 10 Sefirot of Siyum, ending. It's holiness. What is holiness? It's where she says, I don't want to receive. Why? Because I want equivalence of form. So, we learned that below taboo there exist 10 Sefirot, regarded as the light of Chasadim in the illumination of Chokhmah. So we learn in Partzuf Galgalta, and the same applies to all discernments, all the phases. He doesn't interpret. Why is it called 10 Sefirot of ending? Where she says she doesn't want it, that is an end. And that illuminates. That has an illumination of its own. Let's look at question 32. What are tastes? The expansion of light from above downward, meaning from the peh of Ak to the taboo. That is called tastes, flavors. After the verse, and the palate tastes its food. So what are these flavors? We learned yesterday, from the mouth and below. When I say flavors, he explains that in the Rosh, in the head, there are no flavors. Flavors exist only in the goof, the body. Yesterday we learned this. So he asked, apparently he asks, we learned about the coupling of Absag. He says the coupling happened in flavors of Sag, Ta'amim, the Sag. So it's written in part 6. And so you see that flavors exist in the head as well. So why does he say that flavors exist only in the body, in the goof? We explained it thusly. What is the difference between flavors and dots? We learned that flavors are the first expansion, the level of Keter. So I say that it rises to the Rosh. We always speak of the higher discernment. Also, there is Keter there too. It will be Keter. So it's the Keter from the record of the goof. So he says flavors exist in the Rosh as well. Of what? Of the level of Keter. I must say that the body extends from the head. The goof extends from the Rosh. If so, why does he specify that flavors exist in the goof, in the body? When he speaks of flavors and dots, what does it mean, flavors, dots? When the flavors are refined, they no longer exist. Then come the dots. And we learned that in the head, there is no refinement. If so, when I say that a coupling took place in the Rosh, in the head, over the dots, the flavors haven't vanished. They haven't been refined. So why does he make a coupling over dots? For the body, for the goof. The goof cannot receive flavors now. It lost the screen. That's why the flavors and dots do not apply to the Rosh. That's the whole thing. And so he starts by discussing just the flavors. From there and below, how can flavor exist? There we talk about refined or not refined, and so there dots and flavors are applicable. But in the Rosh, that's the higher degree, the higher discernment. There it's all flavors and the dots don't exist. Why? Because the flavors are still shining, still illuminating. And so, where do flavors, dots, tags, and letters all apply? Specifically in the guf.
33. What are right and left? The question is, what are right and left? When you speak of Hasadim, he calls it right and left. 34. What are potential 10 Sefirot? What does it mean, the potential of 10 Sefirot? The Sefirot do not manifest in the 10 Sefirot of the Osh, but are merely as 10 Sefirot in potential, meaning a root. It is like a seed, which is the root of the tree, while the tree is not apparent in it yet. He says the following. Every attainment begins from Malchut and below it. If we say that Malchut does not receive at all, there's no attainment in the Rosh. In that case, how do I know there are 10 Sefirot in the Rosh? How can the lower one know the upper one? What extends below that, you know that there's a root up above. You find that in the Rosh, those are 10 Sefirot in potential. How do I know it? After it was revealed in practice, what is potential? He gives the example of the seed. When you look at the seed, you know that there's a tree there. The root knows in the same way. Later you find out. 35. What is a vessel for surrounding light? Half the thickness of the outer wall in the vessel operates for the surrounding light. See item 30. Then, as we spoke above, everything we discussed, you will see here, all the questions. There's nothing to ask here. Vessel of Malchut. This is very difficult to understand. What does it mean, the vessel of Malchut? So he says, phase 4 of direct light, which is the coarseness over which there was the restriction not to receive in her great measure, is called the vessel of Malchut. Therefore, everywhere we speak of Malchut, what discernment are we talking about? It says here explicitly, only when he perceives in order to receive. The receiver, in order to receive, is called Malchut. This is where we have all the discernments. How much it receives, less or more or nothing. But other than Malchut, we speak of nothing else. Why? Because anything outside of the vessel is called a light. The surrounding light itself are many discernments of surrounding light, not only one.
But to feel it, the vessel needs...
They say the following. There are many discernments of surrounding light. For example, there's surrounding light in the Rosh. What does it mean, surrounding light in the Rosh? Let's see the example. It says, in the second restriction, there are no more than 3 vessels called Galgalta Ve'enaim and Nikve'enaim. Keter, Chochma, Bina. The Anpin becomes an outer vessel, a vessel for the surrounding light of Chaya. Malchut of Rosh becomes a vessel for the surrounding of Yechidah. So So he says, these two surroundings, surrounding of Chaya and surrounding of Yechidah, that we say that they shine in the vessel of the Anpin and Malchut, from the perspective of surrounding light, not inner light, because of the restriction. They shine only in the Rosh of the degree, but not in the Guf, in the body. He explains why, since you need to have equivalence between the light and the vessel. And since there are no vessels in the Rosh yet, therefore in the Rosh they do receive an illumination in the form of surrounding light. But in the Guf, in the body, those are true vessels. The vessels of Zeranpin and Malchut of Guf do not become vessels for surrounding of Chaya and Yechidah. And there are those who teach that the vessel of surrounding of Chaya and Yechidah, that there are vessels of surrounding and Chaya and Yechidah in the Guf as well. For example, we learned about the Patzuf of Galgalta, when the zivug, the coupling that took place in phase 3, phase 4, when Malchut was refined, the dots shine on phase 3. Where was the refinement? In the Guf. Where was the vessel? Where did the vessel become empty? In the Guf. So the coupling that took place, phase 3, that shines in Malchut, since in phase 3 the vessel is more refined compared to phase 4, then it receives only surrounding light. So you see there's also surrounding in the Guf. On this surrounding light, you have a vessel that drew phase 3 of coarseness, and here it loses phase 4 of coarseness. This is a different matter. This one surrounding light is not the same as this surrounding light. There are many other discernments. We'll talk about it. His intention, his great intention, is not from the great will to receive that he has. That's not the measurement for how much he wants to receive. It only measures how much he can aim in order to bestow. Look at what's written. He asks, what is the vessel of Malchut? Phase 4 of direct light. What is phase 4 of direct light? Which is the coarseness over which there was the restriction not to receive in her great measure. This is called the vessel of Malchut. What was the restriction? Malchut doesn't want to receive, except what? Malchut said, since his desire is to do good and to benefit his created beings, and that is the cause for having the will to receive, you find as if there's a difference between the bestower and the receiver. She wants the adornment in order to bestow. So she says, in order to receive, I don't want to. I only want in order to bestow. I don't want to receive in order to receive. This is called restriction. And in order to bestow, yes, this is called a line and a measure. This was the intention. Not if to receive or not to receive. 37. What are the general 5 edges? There are 5 edges. There's a general quality. In the Yesod of Zeranpin, there are the general 5 edges, Chagat Na of Zeranpin. As we learn, the inclusive, the general one, means that it includes all kinds. But what kind does she have? Nothing. Only what it includes of the others. Therefore, it calls it in general 5 edges Yesod. Why are we confused here? The names of the vessels and the names of the lights, they're the same names. That's confusing. When we speak of Zer Anpin, then when he talks about it, who receives here? Who attains Zer Anpin? Malchut attains Zer Anpin, has this form. It attains Yesod, has this form. And Bina has this form. Everything is referring to Malchut, the way Malchut attains them. That's why in everything, you can say that here she attains in Zer Anpin 5 edges. Each and everything is an individual part. And here you talk about how it includes all those 5 qualities of discernments together. We learn 10 Sefirot in 4 phases of direct light. With the same names, we also learn that Malchut attains them. Malchut attains the upper 9. This means that Malchut attains Zer Anpin. And what will you say about it? In that case, what will you ask me? Where do you get the attainment of Yesod? Who attained Malchut? So there's a general and there's a particular. And what it says about a side road means on the path of right and left. Everything is language. Meaning, when he wants to talk, there is chokhmah, there is no chokhmah. He calls that panim v'achol, anterior and posterior. Then the chokhmah shines through the anterior and the posterior. The negative one means this path. So the light of chokhmah shines through anterior and posterior, so it goes hand in hand. When it shines, it's called anterior or face, panim. When it doesn't shine, it's called posterior, achor. This means that the light of chokhmah shines through the anterior and posterior, not at the same time.
In answer 17, he says,
the question is in item 17. What's the interpretation? As there are important corrections in the multiplicity of chasadim, so there are important corrections in the meagerness of chasadim. The place where the abundance manifests in the joining of the 2 sides together is called through the sides. He interprets many things here relative to what we have later. Meaning, in the world of Atzilut, when it speaks of Zer Anpin that has to receive Chokhmah and Chasadim, when it shines Chokhmah, it doesn't shine with Chasadim. And therefore, there's a great correction where it doesn't shine in Chasadim. Therefore, we say that when the light of Chokhmah shines, it's called night. It's because of the lack of Chasadim. And it's called a day when there is Chasadim. Why is it called day? When there is Chasadim, it means that you can already use Chokhmah. But there's no Chokhmah there. It has to be only half a degree. Therefore, when you say through the sides, you especially speak about it in that context, but it's not always the same interpretation. Here, he interprets through the sides in this way. And here, he interprets through the sides in another way. Meaning, for example, in Partsuf of Galgalta of Ak, below the tabur, it shines through the sides. There, it doesn't mean that the correction is from the sides. Everywhere where it says through the sides, meaning everywhere there's a different interpretation according to the context. You have to start now. 38. What is sustaining the vessel? So he says, a small illumination that is not enough for expansion, but only to keep the shape of the vessel intact. This illumination is called sustaining the vessel. In 38, to revive the vessel, to sustain the vessel. Why it's difficult? Here it means to sustain the vessel as if the vessel is dead. It has to revive it. But there was no shattering of the vessels here. That's why it says that the sustenance of the vessel remained intact, that the vessel will remain sustained. And this illumination is referred to as reviving or sustaining the vessel, meaning that the vessel will not cancel its form. This is called here to revive or sustain the vessel, that the form of the vessel will remain intact. Whereas there, in the shattering of the vessels, the vessel shattered and nothing was left of it. Therefore, to revive the vessel or to sustain it there, we also speak of the sparks that went down to revive the vessels. There, we speak about the resurrection of the dead. And for the time being, they are dead. And here, the sustaining or the revival of the vessel means that the vessel remained, kept its shape. It's not dead. 39. What is upper whiteness? Before the light clothes the vessel, it is called upper whiteness. It means that there are no shades in it at all. For all the shades come only from the vessels. The Ari interprets that verse. And I've seen what he was doing to him. And the Atudim, they rise above the herd, the flock, Akudim, Nukudim, and Budim. So the Ari interprets that the whiteness is called the upper whiteness, meaning the Rosh of Galgalta, and Akudim is from the Peh and below. So here it says, what is the upper whiteness? What does it show us? That it refers to it as the upper whiteness, the Rosh of Galgalta, since in the Rosh there are no vessels yet. All the vessels begin from Malchut and below. If there are no vessels there, only light, then there are no changes. That's why it's called whiteness, meaning that it has no hue in it whatsoever, because all the hues begin where? Where there are vessels. Where there are vessels, specifically from the mouth, from the Peh and below. That's why the Rav calls the upper Rosh Galgalta in the name the upper whiteness. If he says, for example, explains to us what is the example. Why is Rosh of Galgalta called the upper whiteness. Then he comes and says, what is whiteness? Since there are hues, what are hues? Changes. White means that there are no changes there. No changes of hues. There are no hues. In that case, what is the meaning of white? Not bestowal, not reception. That's a different matter. Only that there are no hues. You find that the Rosh of Galgalta, then we explained that the light already came down below. It's already called Rosh, not the upper Rosh. It's called the Rosh of the lower one. Anyway, there still has no hues in it. Why? Because it's only the root. And it's not extended into the vessels. But Rosh, whose Rosh is it? It's the Rosh of the lower one. And since it still has no vessels, therefore there are no changes. That's why it's called white. As much as it can show the white, well, there are no changes in it. Why? Because there's no one to receive it. Reception begins from Malchut of Rosh and below. So Lavan, white, is called Rosh, head. Is the Rosh called a bestower or not? If it bestows, it's called the upper light. Who does it bestow to? Of course, the Rosh of the lower one. Why is it called upper one? Whose Rosh of Galgalta is it? The Rosh of Galgalta, of the Parzuf Galgalta. It's already lower one. Why is it called the upper one then? So it says the upper one means that there's still no reception. It's called upper one. It bestows to whom? To the body, to the goof. It's not called receiving. There's no one to receive it yet. Therefore, it's called the root of the vessels. The root of the vessels means that there's no one to receive it. That's why it calls it whiteness. What is whiteness? There's still no hues in it. There's no changes in it. Everything is a different matter. Typically, we speak of hues specifically in Malchut. When we get into the details, we will say that there are 4 hues. Chochmah is called white. Bina is called red. Tiferet is called green, the middle line. And Malchut is called black. In that case, the white there is Chochmah. And there it is not referred to as the upper whiteness. So everything has meaning according to how he wants to explain it. How do you say? This is almost shorthand, perhaps. Lack words, there's no words. With one word, he explains many things. Question 40.